John chapter 10 verses 22 and 23 says, "And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch." Did Jesus take part in Hanukkah? The answer is yes and no. Jesus took part in what has become known as Hanukkah, but in his day it was observed at the temple on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, and there were no 9-candled menorahs being lit as far as history or the Bible shows us. So what is Hanukkah? The word Hanukkah means dedication. The first temple, known as Solomon's Temple, had been leveled and completely destroyed by the Babylonian armies of Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. It was rebuilt and dedicated in 516 BC, and those dates are disputed and debated by others, by the way, but it was a 70-year period. This second temple was then desecrated when Jerusalem was overrun by the Seleucid Greek armies of Antiochus Epiphanes in 167 BC. This included the horrific defilement of the temple itself. Tens of thousands were massacred and tens of thousands more were sold into slavery. Sabbath was outlawed and the Jews were forced to take part in pagan worship, to eat defiled food, and were violated in other terrible ways. And these disgusting abuses were at their worst during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes' own birthday celebrations. An altar to the false god devil called Zeus was erected in the temple, and sacrifices were made to pigs. Other terrible things like sexual rituals and defilement of blood took place. Antiochus himself engaged in sex with prostitutes in the temple. It was just a horrible time. By 164 AD, the Maccabees, led by Judas Maccabeus, were in full revolt, living off the land in the wilderness. They defeated the Seleucids and purified the temple on the 25th day of the Jewish month of Kislev. According to some, this would have been November 21st, 164 BC by our calendar. That day of the 25th of Kislev, which lands on a different day each year on our calendar, was then celebrated and remembered as the Feast of Dedication. And at about the 193rd anniversary of this dedication of the temple by the Maccabees, we read our text in John 10, 22 and 23. And we're not told of Jesus taking part in any sort of activities or services, but it's obvious that he didn't reject the historicity of the event and did not separate himself from those observing the event known as the Feast of Dedication or Hanukkah. However, there's no record of the modern observance of lighting the 9 candles of the Hanukkah menorah before or during the life of Christ. The earliest recorded account of the Feast of Dedication being observed as a feast of lights isn't until 500 or 600 years after Christ. 1 Maccabees 4, 49 through 50 says they made new holy vessels and brought the lampstand, the altar of incense, and the table into the temple. Then they offered incense on the altar and lit the lamps on the lampstand, and these gave light in the temple. Then verse 56 says, "So they celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days, and joyfully offered burnt offerings. They offered a sacrifice of well-being and a thanksgiving offering." There's no record of there being a need for a miracle for the oil to last 8 days. Could it have happened? Well, of course, but Hanukkah is not really based on historical accounts. So the Christian perspective of Hanukkah is similar to Christmas. We eat the meat and spit out the bones. And the only light that we are dedicated to is the light of the world. John 8:12 says, "Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life." Lighting candles daily for 8 days and discussing the historical event of the Feast of Dedication while honestly presenting the miracle of lights as a nice story with no historical basis is harmless. But using the Feast of Lights to present Jesus, the light of the world, to lost Jews and Gentiles, that's priceless. Use every opportunity to present Jesus. Happy Hanukkah.